All right, we're good. Okay, it's 5 o'clock. Let's get started. This is episode 2 of my bi-weekly podcast, Crit the Bootshine. We just started this a couple weeks ago. This is a podcast uh, tries to focus on some of the topics relating to rating in Final Fantasy 14. Uh, Demographic I try to reach is people already rating and maybe people looking into getting rating, looking to get into rating. So if that's you, I hope you enjoy and hang out with us for the next, I'd say, about hour to hour and a half. Today's topic is going to be patch 4.3. Patch 4.3 is right around the corner. This is the first time I've brought on a guest who I'll be introducing in 1 second. We're going to be discussing patch 4.3 and what some of our expectations for relating to the info that we've received. And the guest that we've brought on for today's show is my longtime teammate, good buddy, Chyea Chyea.
Hi.
Yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I've been on a couple podcasts and been rating a long time with Layla, so hopefully we can share some insights on what we've learned over the past 4 years of rating together.
That would you hope that there would be something there.
So a little bit.
Just like, I mean, we've only been playing together for 3.5 to 4 years, dude. So Chyea, like he said, has been a longtime teammate of mine. We dating back to when we were both in Collision. So we've been through it all, man. We've been through it all. But for my first like sort of guest show, bringing somebody on, I thought it would be easy for me to bring on somebody that I've known as long as I have Chyea. So
Happy to be here and honored.
Yeah, so I appreciate also him coming on because I asked him kind of last minute. I only asked him about 3 days ago, so appreciate it, man. So I sent we put together some show notes. We're going to be going through. We'll start with like a brief overview of what's going to come with the patch, and then break down some of the more interesting sides of the patch because there's a lot of stuff that I actually just really don't care about in this patch, but there's some stuff that will make good discussion topics. So as far as an overview of the patch, Chyea walked through this with me. We saw the trailer released during one of the live letters. It was a trailer. It showed very minimal amounts of rating as usual. A lot of MSQ stuff that I don't really know anything about. Have you done any MSQ for the last 2 patches?
I've done MSQ on multiple characters, and I thoroughly would recommend that if you have a character that hasn't gone through the MSQ, to just go through the whole thing just casually. You can't watch all the cutscenes in the inn because there's like dialogue that doesn't show up between characters mid cutscene, so you have to do the quests themselves in order to get all the info. But some people don't like MSQ. That's fine. It's not their cup of tea. But in my opinion, ever since Heaven's Ward, the MSQ for Final Fantasy 4 in general has been great. And if you've ever been to, there's tons of lore in there, hidden in between each patch's MSQ, but there's not anything there for raiders. It's just there if you want to read the story.
So, I guess the one thing that I'll ask about is when we were watching the trailer for 4.3. We're obviously looking for stuff relating to Ultimate, stuff relating to raids. You and I mean by us. And when they were demoing the Ultimate portion of the trailer, we saw a figure who a lot of people are thinking is Gaius. Do we think that that's Gaius? And if so, what does that mean?
So it doesn't appear that the character there is wearing a helmet. So
right, but he
Gaius,
has the gunblade.
He has the gunblade, exactly. So it's got to be someone Garlean, and Gaius is the Garlean that's most attached to the Ultima weapon fight. So I'm not saying it's Gaius, but it's Gaius.
Okay, I agree with that.
I can't imagine it not being Gaius. If it isn't Gaius, I'd be like, maybe it's an original character that they put in there for some reason, but I think it's got to be Gaius.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're kind of like expecting some sort of Gaius / Heidelin cameo into the Ultimate fight. I talked a little bit about that on one of our earlier episodes when I was talking about the Ultimate Weapon encounter and what we're looking forward to with that. But I guess it's really just speculation at this point.
Yeah. Although I'd be kind of disappointed if at the end of the Ultima phase, the Ultima weapon phase, that Golden Gaius is just pop out and start doing Magitech with Exaflare.
So you want to fight Gaius in Ultimate Weapon?
I want Gaius to be the last phase of the fight.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, Guy.
You don't
Well,
think that would piss people off?
when you think about it, Gaius is the guy piloting Ultima Weapon in the MSQ. He's the guy inside it. He's fighting you directly in the suit. So having him as the last phase, he's like the primary antagonist of the whole fight. It doesn't appear that way because it looks like a giant robot. But Gaius is the guy you're actually fighting. The robot's just an inanimate chunk of metal without him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see, because the stuff that this is all based off of is the Wandering Minstrel, right? So it's all based off of our encounter in the story mode, right?
Yeah, and when you look at like Ultimate Coil, there was Golden Bahamut, which wasn't anywhere in any of the turns 1 to 13, but Ultima Weapon just has Gruda Titan Ifrit and Ultima Weapon. So I expect that there's going to be a Gruda phase, a Titan phase, a Ifrit phase, and then them all mixed up, jumbled up, Ultima Weapon, and then there's going to be a mystery phase.
Yeah, it might be. Like Ultimate Weapon's gonna be a big topic for the show later on. So I'm sure we'll get really into that side of the speculation. Let's keep going on with the overview of what we're looking at with patch 4.3. We talked a little bit about some of the lore that's being added to the patch. Now, this is something that you've been talking about for a while to our team. If it wasn't clear, Chyea is a member of our current team right now, so I see him nearly every other day, and we talk about stuff all the time. But you've been talking a lot about the Four Lords for like the last 2 weeks. This is something that because I don't really do any of these quests and haven't read anything about them. There's a lot of speculation about the upcoming trial that they're adding in 4.3, and initially we had expected that it was going to be Four Lords related. However, I was reading the translation of the interview yesterday, and they're saying that the new trial is not related to the Four Lords, so I'm now confused. Do you have any light that you can shed on this?
So if everyone remembers back in the Warring Triad, there was a patch where you fought Sephiroth first. You fought Sephiroth. I think that was Midas patch you fought Sephiroth. And then the patch after Sephiroth, there was a Warring Triad side quest where you went and fought Regulus, Van Hydrus. You fought him in the
Eureka
Chemical. Exactly. So what I believe is that this is going to be a side quest similar to that, where you have to fight, X mob, X boss, but it's not going to be a primal, or it's not going to be a Four Lord actual boss fight. They said that the trial, the extreme trial that's going to show up in the patch, is not in any trailers, and it's not even going to be in the patch notes. So the only thing that we have is that it might be tied to MSQ, and if it's tied to MSQ, it probably has something to do with Doma. And last night they announced the mount that shows up for.
Oh, did they? I didn't see this.
Yeah. It's a black and gold mount. So I can't, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything that's black and gold other than the Garleans. So I think it's going to be a Garlean rated trial. Maybe we know that the scene in the MSQ trailer that has regular or not Xenos fighting Gosetsu.
Yeah.
That's not going to be the trial. That's going to be something
they said
else.
It's not in the trailer at all.
Exactly. So it's going to be something that's not. It's going to be something that we have never had any inkling of, other than the fact that it's probably tied to MSQ, and if it's tied to MSQ, the MSQ is all in Doma, and that the mount is black and gold. So based on those two things, I think it's going to be a Garlean related trial, but that's just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Dude, are we going to get another Magitech mount? How many Magitech mounts are there in the game right now?
There's 3 Magitech mounts, but there's a lot of like just random robots, like the Allegan random robots, like the ADS mount and the egg-shaped ADS mount.
What if we get an avatar mount?
No, maybe I misunderstood, or maybe there's a miscommunication here. The mount is a wolf.
Oh, it's a wolf. Oh, okay.
It's a wolf. It's a black. It's a black and gold wolf. The same one as Lakshmi and Susano.
Oh, okay. I mean, that could be kind of cool, I guess. It's like a mecha wolf.
No, it's not metal. It's just black and gold. That's the theme. So
Okay, well, I'm less interested then.
Yeah, Shiryu was like vomit green, and Lakshmi was white, and Susano was blue. So this one's black and gold.
Okay. Well, mounts are good if you're into that type of thing. Are we expecting more of the same weapon rewards? Low eye level weapons that end up just being glamour 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, I expect to be just be weapons. It's a good pattern. Uh, well, maybe it seems like a flood of weapons now this late into Stormblood, but having the weapons drop from primals is pretty solid. But there is right now a bit of a ways too many ways to get a weapon. You have crafted, you have Animos, Eureka Animos, and soon Pagos, and then you have the primals weapons. So to
It
me,
feels really
and
oversaturated.
yeah, there's a lot of weapons. This is like five weapons you can get within the 345 to 375 range. So I hope it's not a weapon, but I expect it to be a weapon.
Okay. Yeah. There's a dog going absolutely bonkers in my next door neighbor's yard, so I apologize for that. Um, so in addition to the new trial that we're getting, and hopefully, so I think I read somewhere that they were trying to mimic the difficulty of Thornton. I don't know if I read that or if that was just something I read in the Discord. But if we get something akin to Thornton, then I would call that a success for an extreme trial that they're adding. Um, I'm I don't think any of us are ever expecting a Savage Plus encounter from these types of trials. But I thought Thornton Prague was really fun. The first couple days of doing Thornton also was fun. Uh,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
so Thornton or Thornton Plus, I'd be totally happy with. I don't know if we're expecting that, but that would be totally what I'd be looking forward to.
Thornton was definitely in the higher percentile of primals when it first released. I would enjoy something like that. But primals and savage and ultimate all have their niches, and there needs to be a certain difficulty cap for the primals. Can't make it too hard, otherwise the content is overlapping with what they want other people to be doing or
So
other demographics to be doing.
put you on the spot here as my teammate. What do you want to do when the patch goes live? Are you jumping into the primal? Or are you jumping into the 24 man? I guess not a
I,
primal, a trial.
well, first things I want to do 24 man because I loved Ravenastra,
Okay.
but I want if it's it's a team building thing and this is to other raid teams out there. If your team wants to alarm clock, Primal's probably the best way to go because it has just you in there with the 24 man. It's likely to be your static plus 60 other people, and things can go badly. But when you have 8 people ready to go, doing a primal is probably more fun.
So talking about the 24 man, we're getting another Ivlis raid. I thought that the Robin Oster that they added in 4-1 was probably one of their better 24 mans. Do you agree
Agreed.
or no?
Agreed. Absolutely. It was. There's kind of longish. It's pretty long. I think it might be the longest 24 man,
I think
but
so. What Crystal Tower before? Okay, I had a question because I do the Alliance roulette that they added, and when you do the Alliance roulette now and you get Crystal Tower, you know how they have the teleporters at the end of every boss, right? Was
that
that
teleport you
they teleport you
that
back to the
teleport you
beginning,
back.
right?
I'm
Were
pretty
those
sure that was a
always there?
yeah. I'm pretty sure that was always there.
Am I
I'm
just
pretty sure.
crazy? Because I remember having to run back from like the Bone Dragon to the entrance.
I might be wrong, but as long as I can remember, they were there. But
Okay.
Crystal Tower was unique, and that was the first implementation of it. And they went, the kind of two wings, two pathway sort of thing.
Yeah.
And they also had that awful, what's it called? What's that thing called?
Which one?
On the right side where you have to stand on the pedals.
On the pedals? Oh,
There's
the
it's
are you which boss are you talking about?
right before Thanatos, the magic
Oh,
pot
the
boss.
the Atomos section?
Atomos. That to this day, it's awful. Like it's been 4 years, guys. It's been nearly 5 years, guys. That I mean, it's
Yeah.
still terrible.
People don't really understand that like when you stand on the button, it helps the other lane.
Yeah, it's not you. It's
It's
not
not your lane.
exactly. So ever since then, if you've noticed, ever since that, there's never been something like that. It's always been your lane to your lane because they repeated that mechanic
Yeah, yeah.
in
I
Osmos.
mean,
Osmos.
yeah. I mean, they saw that we had no team coordination at all as a raid
I mean,
in that, and they were
as
just like,
as a
okay, this is too much.
as a North American community, we just couldn't handle it.
All right, so we're hoping for something uh, at Rabanastor's level or better than Rabanastor.
I would hope that it's at Ramdas level. I'd be totally happy with that. The only thing I don't like about 24 mans in general is that once you're established, you have your raid set good to go, and you can buy the alt sets from Mendacity. Getting the gear is just glamour. I understand that 24 mans are for people, just gearing out lower classes or gearing out, or just doing casually, that's fine. But there should be something other than materia that you get from doing a 24 man. And I'm not sure what that is. Oh, sorry. Other than materia and upgrade thing. I know they're
Yeah.
generous already, but there's a lot of people, and you and I both know this, that just don't want to do it after the first week. And that
No.
feels like yeah, it feels like kind of a burn because the 24 mans are all pretty cool. Like I enjoy all the 24 mans, but
I mean, I'll go even farther than cool. I think that the 24 mans, like as a design, are better than the raids.
yeah,
Like
no,
the
they put in
Ravenaster environment is way better than the Omega environment.
absolutely more people are seeing it though, so I'm assuming they put a lot more work into it. But you're right, Ravenastra, the whole thing, it's way better than any of the raids, uh, aesthetic wise, looking at it wise, definitely way better. But I'm not sure what they could put on the weekly lockout, or you go there once that would make people want to do it more often. Materia is a good start, but it's kind of hard otherwise to come up with something
I
else.
mean, would it really be so bad if they just took away the lockout from the 24 mans? Why do we need a 1 week lockout on shitty gear?
That's true. You don't need it. You realistically
Maybe
don't
a
really
1 day
need.
lockout. What about a one
Yeah,
day
one day,
lockout?
one day. That's a really good idea. Actually, that is a good idea.
Solved it.
It resets every day on the daily reset, and
Yeah,
you get a piece of gear every day. I like that.
solved it.
That would that would massively increase the amount of people doing them too.
Yeah, and it's not like it's free gear. Like you still have to go and you still have to win the rolls. And yeah, I don't know. I think that would be much. I would do it more if because right now I don't do it because I know that I'm gonna get one piece of crappy gear every week for an alt that I rarely play. But if I was getting one piece of crappy gear every day for an alt that I rarely play, maybe I would do it more.
So absolutely, I think that would solve a lot of the problems with 24 man in terms of having people regularly do them because doing it once a week kind of boring. The only downside I see is that it might feel people pressured to having to do the 24 man as a significant time investment. It's like it's like 30 minutes,
Yeah,
40 minutes, and it might make people that don't want to play that much or don't want to invest that much time feel obligated to go in, get that gear every day.
it could. I mean, at the end of the day, though, like the gear is so much more inferior to some of the alternatives like Eureka or Sigmascape right now. That
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
it's like really not a big deal. So I don't know how pressured people would actually feel, but maybe I don't know.
That's the only downside I can think of.
Yeah. So we talked about the some of the lore in the patch, the 4 trial stuff with the trial of the new 24 minutes coming out. We haven't talked about the thing that I was actually looking forward to more than potentially even Ultimate itself, and that was the new Deep Dungeon.
Man, I I'm so excited for Heaven on High. Heaven on High is what it's called.
I'm here to be the dampener on your excitement.
There was so many good ideas in Palace of the Dead that if they just pushed it one level further, Palace of the Dead would be fantastic. We talked about this in regarding the Mythic Plus sort of idea with Palace of the Dead. If they just pushed Palace of the Dead one level further, I'd be doing it right now.
I mean,
But
are they going to do that though?
yeah, that's the problem.
I
So
don't think they're going to.
so they said that the floors 30 plus, you can't matchmake for it. You have to
Right?
do it in a pre-made party.
Which is
So
good.
that's a good sign. And additionally, I think they learned a lot of things from Palace of the Dead just based on feedback that I think they've gotten. For example, when you do Palace of the Dead at the higher floors, to avoid traps, everyone just runs around the edge. You just run around the edge, and then no
Yeah.
traps spawn there. There's no hitbox for the traps around the edge. So it gets kind of boring because you're just running around edging, and it takes the traps out of the equation. If they change the way traps spawn so that they can spawn on any pixel, on
Literally
any
any
tile you have,
tile on the map.
exactly, it would make it much more dangerous and much more exciting.
So
So
I mean, how does that even play out then? You just fan out, make sure you're never ever stacked on top of each other.
you never stacked out. You have the tank go forward. You have a plan for each room. Okay, we're going to pull this, this, and this. I, I don't like the fact that when you do Palace of Dead, you do a floor 200 climb, you're just running around the edge, and
Yeah.
it's kind of boring. It takes the whole trap thing out of the equation. There are some mobs that AoE, and you have to worry about that, but for the most part, it's pretty safe. You
Well,
just
this.
have to worry about the mobs themselves, not the traps.
Yeah.
And additionally, when they did Palace of Dead, there was only one truly killer floor debuff, which was Gloom.
Gloom. Yeah.
Yeah, that increased the damage and the speed and the it was just a hard debuff to do with the higher levels. If they varied the positive and negative debuffs that you got from the floor, I think it'd be a lot more interesting too. And I hope they do that on Heaven on High. We already know that there's going to be a primal summoning mechanism,
Yes, yeah,
which
we saw that.
I'm not sure if that's going to follow or replace Pomanders or be part of the Pomander system, or maybe it's just something completely different.
When I
But
saw it, I expected it to completely replace the Pomanders, but
yeah, I expected to. Pomanders were kind of garbage in general.
yeah, I mean
Like
they were uninteresting, right?
they were very uninteresting, and you kind of like the strength one and the damage down one. You kind of just had to refresh them, or you just refresh them constantly, and you just had to, oh, hey, we didn't get one, hey, we're unlucky. It just felt bad. It never felt good to get a Pomander. It was always like, hey, we didn't get Pomander, kind of sucks.
Well,
And that's
it
kind
was so orange. Like the Pomanders were. Well, here's one thing. Like the Pomanders were so strong that if you didn't get X amount of Pomanders in your climb was hell, right?
anyone who's tried doing the solo climb knows that
You just can't do it without it.
you need the Pomander luck. You need the
Yeah.
luck. There's there's a lot of skill in the solo climb. Absolutely, you need to play everything properly, but there's still skill can only take you so far in the higher floors. You need the Pomanders to help you get through that. And if you just don't get them, it's awful.
So the Heaven on High is looking to be POTD plus. Uh, I know that they talked about like leading up to this. Yoshida was referencing we're making difficult format content. He teased at that for like multiple months, and it seems to me like this is them. This is that plan coming to fruition. I personally am a little bit disappointed that we're getting another Palace of the Dead, even if it's Palace of the Dead Plus, because I think that, and this I've been like super critical about this. This is all I preach all the time. Some people are probably tired of hearing about it at this point, but I am really, really, really pushing for a need for better um, interactions with light party dungeons in this game, like the actual dungeons themselves. We get a Heaven on High, which is probably going to. I actually don't know this. Do we know anything about like what Heaven on High is going to look like inside? Is it just a reskin Palace of the
There
Dead?
are there are a few frames in the trailer where you can see a gorilla in a stony room, and the person fighting it is a samurai, and they have what looks to be like a glowing, similar to Palace of the Dead weapon. I'm
Yeah.
guessing that comes from Heaven on High, and it looks like you can see outside. There's windows. Aesthetically, it probably looks pretty different from Palace of the Dead.
Okay.
However, from floor layout, it's probably the same.
That's that idea. That's more what I was getting at. Like, is this just going to be another Palace of the layout, and where you're going from like room to room? But I wanted to see um, heavier emphasis on light party dungeons, either more difficult dungeons or uh, them sort of expanding on the dungeon mode that's already there and applying like little win conditions to it, like clearing the dungeon in a certain amount of time, or putting maybe some of the floor enchantments that they had in their Palace of the Dead, applying those to some of their dungeons, and maybe you could kill a certain number of mobs, you remove an enhancement, like just something like that. Or if you zone in, you get a debuff on you that doesn't allow you to use your skills the way you necessarily want to. Just something that incorporated the dungeons into the content more than just a tower.
So I would take the opposite view in that
Yeah.
dungeons are good. I mean, improving dungeons is a good idea. I totally wouldn't mind new dungeons with harder mechanics and a different way to do them. But dungeons also exist for just casual content, casual players, and they're basically straight lines for the most part. There's very little variation in the dungeons, and
Sure.
improving and changing the way that the dungeons operate, either with layout or with the enemy spawn or stuff like that, seems a lot more inflexible compared to having a new system like Palace of the Dead, where they can tinker with a lot more variables. And it'd still be hard light party content, but you'd have more freedom outside of the dungeon frame. It would be, going from boss to boss to boss, but it could be more unique.
I
So
hope you're right, man.
I
Because I think that I think that this was such an important part of their patch. To be honest, I think this is actually one of the most important things that they're going to do to their game in the next couple months. The need for light party content in Final Fantasy XIV is massive because there is only so much time you spend actually in a raid. There's only so much time you can spend running your roulettes. There's only so much time you can. Well, I guess people who really enjoy PvP can PvP all day. You could talk about that. But the stuff that isn't raiding or isn't crafting or isn't doing your roulettes um, is a very short list, and the game needs day-to-day content badly, I feel.
I
And
agree.
light party content is such an easy way for players. It's like very non-committal. It's easier to find 3 friends to do something than 7 friends. It would give people so much to do on a day-to-day basis if there was reason and an entertaining reason to do so. So I'm hoping that this Palace of the Dead plus 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 on with Heaven on High is going to be just that. It's going to be light party content that people enjoy doing on day to day for fun, because I think it's really important.
At least for the start, I think it will. When Palace of the Dead 4200 first came out, a lot of us spent a lot of time in Palace of the Dead, and there were pretty frequent 4200 climbs, just in the FC or Party Finder or organizing within Discord. It happened for months after Palace of the Dead 200 was released.
Yeah.
So if they have something similar for floor 100 or 31 to 100, I think that it'll fit a good niche for players looking for a challenge. We'll have to see though.
We'll see. Yeah, because I love doing like dungeon speed runs, like the 4-man dungeons. It's something that I've loved doing since Realm Reborn. And it's light party content is just, it's such a great time sink if done properly. Anyway, that's enough time spent on the Heaven on High. We really don't have enough information to speculate whether it's going to suck or not. We just know what it's not going to be. The other additions that we're getting in patch 4.3, probably one of the biggest additions, and it's so big that they actually had to push it back, is the new Eureka Zone. Chyea is somebody who I believe you went really hard in the first Eureka, right?
I didn't go the hardest.
You didn't go the hardest, but you went hard.
But I went pretty hard. I tried to get to 20 pretty fast. We were the first ones. I think we were tied for the first people in the world to spawn Pazuzu with the JP group. It spawned at the exact same time the weather reset.
Oh, the same window, right? Yeah.
Exactly the same moment, because 30 seconds later, we saw it on the JP tweet.
Who killed it first, though? That's the question.
I think they killed first. I think we wiped, like we had a raid wipe.
It's FCOB all over again, man.
Yeah, man, they just keep getting us. But regardless, the level of dedication to doing Eureka was high for a lot of people. A lot of people went really hard. Pangos, I expect the same thing, and they already announced that there's going to be a new mechanic in Pangos called Happy Buddies, something that they ported over from FF11, but I'm not familiar with it. So
I'm not familiar either, to be honest.
Yeah, so it's like a treasure hunt. Like the buddies tell you where the treasure is. So that's something new in Pangos. Honestly, I'm surprised that they came up with a new zone pretty fast.
I am too. I think that this is clearly something that like they have a separate team working on, and it's it's ongoing while they're developing all the other stuff, because an entire zone at the pace that they're doing, when we struggled to barely get 2 separate dungeons at this type of pace, was pretty impressive. And you have to assume that, especially because you can kind of see the other zones in the distance, right, with the original Eureka zone.
Yeah, there's probably 4 zones in total.
Yeah, some of these zones are probably already made. They're just not put in the game yet. Like this Pagos has probably been made for a while.
You can see, if you go into Eureka right now, you can actually see where Pagos will be, and you can see the landmarks there.
And we're going to use the teleporter that we got online, right, to go there. It's like in the north side of the map.
Yeah, probably. There's probably going to be the same home base, and then we just teleport over to Pagos. Yeah. But nothing for sure yet. The only downside with Pagos, I'm happy with it in general. I was happy with Eureka in general, is that there's no armor. That seems really weird.
I personally wasn't expecting armor. You were expecting armor?
I was expecting armor because they said maybe this was pre-Stormblood, they said that the next relic iteration wouldn't just be a weapon.
Oh, I remember that. No, we talked about that a lot before Stormblood came out. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, that is kind of a letdown now that you say it like that, because we did get kind of hyped up about that maybe we were going to get relic specific armor that was going to have like a cool effect or something,
or maybe like a set bonus or
something.
Yeah,
like a set, like exactly. Maybe they were going to have bonuses by the end, by the final sets.
I was thinking they might make a relic trinket, maybe something similar to that. But it looks like, I believe in the trailer you can see the models for the new Eureka weapons, or at least they look like relics. It looks like they just could be relics. Probably item level 365 or 370.
Oh, so okay. So let's see. Eureka three. I think with 370.
Right now they're
What's the
355.
precedent for that? Like when a new raid tier. I'm trying to think back to the previous relic steps, like coinciding with when a new raid comes
There
out.
was only one tier back in Realm Reborn where the relic step was better than the weapon you could get from the raid, and that was, I believe, second coil.
Wasn't that we didn't we enter final coil with relic weapons as being
Yes,
this?
you wanted the relic weapons for final coil BIS, because those are the ones you could customize the slots for the first
Yeah.
time, customize the stats. So that was the only time I can remember going into a raid, the relic weapon was BIS. So I don't expect it to be 375.
So we'll be
Probably,
still about 5 levels below you're expecting.
probably I expect 365 or 370, but anything higher than that would be a shock.
Okay. All right. So, uh, as far as the expectation for this Pagos, are you expecting it to, with the exception of whatever the hell the bunnies are going to do,
Yeah,
play
probably
out the
similar.
same way? You know, we're going to be
The only
the
thing,
people who want to try hard the most are going to be off on their own, grinding their mobs and spawning the NMs related to those mobs, and then you have a fate drain for the rest everybody else.
so there's something that I think I brought this up with a couple people already. When you're designing when you're designing a game, you want to engage the maximum number of players. When you're doing Eureka right now, and you go to a train, over half the people just stand there and look at the mobs, and the other half are doing nothing. Other half are doing all the killing. Might
Half of
even be
them are on
more
a
than that.
log,
Half of them, yeah, half of them are on log waving their
cheap
glow
posing.
sticks. Exactly, and that really doesn't seem like a conducive environment that people would enjoy. Like people still do it anyway because Eureka's still fresh and new, but having half the player base just wait for the mobs to spawn doesn't seem like the best idea. There has to be something you could put in that would engage more player base. And the thing that we came up with, or the things that we thought might be a good idea, is that you have a global fate similar to Pazuzu but not Pazuzu that you could do daily quests or you could do repeatable quests to turn in. So you go kill 30 psych flares or 30 water elemental mobs, etc., and builds up the bar till that thing spawns.
Huh. Okay, so it's like that's something you work together with your server to do,
With
or with your
whoever's in
data
the
center, I
zone,
guess.
yeah, whoever's in the zone, they could help do. They could help build toward it, and it doesn't have to be a fate train sort of thing. Like the separate groups can go off to wherever and do whatever farming thing they want to do. Another thing that I think that they mentioned they're going to do is that they're going to have item drops that summon boss mobs. So maybe you get 30 bone shards or 30 blood of void scent, and you combine those to make an item that summons a mob. If you I don't know if this is going to show my age, but a long time ago there was an event in World of Warcraft in Silithus where you had to combine Twilight scraps to summon
Yeah.
boss mobs, and
Mm-hmm.
you increasingly increase the level of the
That
boss
was only
mobs.
like 2004, 2005.
Yeah, I
That
mean,
far back.
gaming for a long time, but that one you just farm regular trash mobs. They drop the first set. They farm the next higher up. They drops the next set, etc.,
Yeah.
etc. And I would like something like that in Eureka. I think it would go very well. You just farm trash mobs. You summon the super trash mob. You kill 5 super trash mobs. You summon, the mid boss. You kill 5 mid bosses. You summon, the big baddie.
I think that would go well. I mean, I like that kind of stuff. It's like a progression style grinding.
Yeah, it's grinding. There's goals. That's the thing. There's
It's
goals.
progression grinding is what it is. So
when you when you do Eureka right now, you never really know when Cyclops is going to spawn
it's
or
all just
when
RNG, right? It's just a
it's
lottery.
RNG. It's a tick on when the mobs would respawn. It respawns the boss instead.
Yeah.
At least that's what we believe. So having something that has a concrete endpoint in sight seems better
Yeah,
in
I
my
agree.
eyes.
I think it would do what Eureka lacks at doing right now, and incentivize people to actually pull their weapons out and kill mobs. Because right now
Just
it's just you could kill mobs or you could not kill mobs, and if you get lucky, the mob spawns at the same time, so it doesn't matter.
exactly.
Well, those are things I think are most of us can agree are good ideas and stuff that we hope to see. I think with later iterations of Eureka, I have a feeling that Pagos is going to behave fairly similarly to the current Eureka we have right now.
I agree. They don't want to change it too much at
Yeah.
once, but maybe in the future Eurekas they'll have different mechanics.
Stuff to look out for in the future for sure. So we have Also, the obvious big headliner to the patch. We have some pretty big job changes coming up, potentially big at least. We'll discuss, just how big. Um, we'll briefly gloss over them, and then we'll talk about them more later in the show. But the jobs that are sort of headlining that are on the chopping block, maybe, or on the buffing block. We have big changes to Samurai, Dark Knight, and Astrologian, with a little bit less so on the Samurai end of things, most likely. We have some minor changes to Black Mage and Monk, with the Monk being some enmity adjustments and Black Mage being some mobility adjustments that are probably not necessary, but that's okay. And then we have the curveball that is, from my point of view, being somebody who plays tanks all the time, a welcome curveball. We have some hinted warrior adjustments that popped up kind of last minute. And we don't really know the specifics of that. Are they going to be adjustments, or was it just a poor translation and they're referencing the fact that the Dark Knight adjustments are going to change Warrior's place? I don't really know if it was, what the translation was meaning at that point. But it definitely stuff to look out for, come Tuesday. But I think before we get into the topic that I think most raiders really want to hear about when it comes to 4.3, is there anything else that we've left out, Chyea, that you're looking forward to in 4.3?
Well, there's glamour dresser upgrades.
There is a glamour dresser upgrade. I actually wrote that myself in the notes, and I forgot about it. I am so excited for glamour dresser updates because I hate the glamour dresser, and my inventory is awful, and the glamour dresser could be my salvation, but it is awful right now.
The glamour dresser is useful right now. Right now, it's useful as a storage facility, as a glamour plate thing. It's kind of hard to use. I'm not sure what they can do to fix that. I don't know how the transmog system in World of Warcraft and other games works out, but it doesn't feel complete yet. But the thing I'm looking forward to most is you can actually get back the items you put in.
It was so stupid. You put stuff in, you can't take it out.
I put in all my ultimate weapons.
Oh, really?
So I can't.
You actually didn't tell us that. That's funny.
Yeah. So I don't have access to them anymore. So I get to get them back now without spending tokens.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
What they do in WoW, for glamour related, is they have something that's kind of similar to the glamour dresser, but it's like a transmog book, and you can pull outfits from that, appearances from that book. And it's kind of what the glamour dresser is trying to be, but the glamour dresser has so many more limitations than like the transmog book in WoW.
I believe, I'm not sure if this is true in WoW, but I believe there was a game, might have been Rift, where when you opened up your glamour system, it showed every glamour that was available, and then it showed you where to get them.
Oh yeah, WoW does the same thing. So, knowing how Rift operated, it probably took it from WoW.
Probably. But it would be like a check mark of like, hey, you can go get this gear, this gear, this gear, this gear. And I thought that was really cool when I saw it.
Same system, yeah. So Final Fantasy will never do that because they like to, be their own snowflake. But I hope that the glamour dresser continues to get updates because it's awful right now. Okay, so let's get into the big headliner for 4.3, Ultimate Weapon. And this is what Chyea and I have been preparing for weeks. And there's a lot to talk about here. We just got a ton of new info about it. Some stuff that was kind of expected, some stuff that maybe wasn't expected. But we have a bit more concrete info about what we're going to be seeing in 2.5 weeks. And to start with, one of the things that was confirmed yesterday was we finally got confirmation of what we kind of expected, but we got confirmation that the fight is going to be shorter than UCOB. And there's a lot of different meanings for this and a lot of things that are going to probably happen as a result. But your initial reaction, Chyea, do you think that the fight should be shorter than UCOB? Do you like UCOB's length? Where do you stand on that?
So if you take out all the phase transitions in UCOB, oh, did I just lose you?
Oh, hi. Yeah, Discord just dropped for a second. Go ahead.
Hi. If you take out all the phase transitions in UCOB, it's actually like a 17-minute fight because the phase transitions from, for example, Twin and Nail phase to Golden Bahamut, it's like a minute. It's like a minute of just sitting there doing nothing and looking at Phoenix resurrect you. So I think that if we expect them to have very minor phase transitions, for example, like a phase transition between like Nail or Twin and Nail, it's just a Heaven's Fall and he dives on top of you. If it's like that, then I could see it being the same sort of time that you're active in combat. and you're still pressing roughly the same amount of keys, GCDs, in
Okay.
the fight. If they still have glamorous phase transitions, long, always casting Ultima, you have to get in Heidel's Blessing, for example, or whatever, and that's 30 seconds right there. It probably means that there's going to be parts in the fight that are heavily movement based, and like heavily you have to hit the boss while mechanics are going on. I
Yes.
think someone last night, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Svi. When they do the trios, when we're doing trios in Ultimate, for example, imagine while you're doing trios, you still have to DPS the boss.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah, exactly. That's
yeah.
what I'm
So
expecting as well.
if you take it like Midas, for example, while you're doing the whole Midas thing, you still have to hit the onslaught in the middle. I'm talking about Brute Justice. Sorry, Brute Justice. While we're doing the intermissions in Brute Justice, you still have to hit onslaught in the middle. Maybe that something like that could be good. I'm not saying you hit onslaught in the middle right now. I'm saying you could because he's
Sure.
standing there for most of the time.
So just to sort of catch people up listening who maybe aren't familiar with UCOB, what we're talking about obviously is the Unending Coil Bahamut. It was the first Ultimate fight that they released. And what happens in UCOB is you have these huge mechanic dances, which is basically just referencing that there's a lot of movement and a lot of mechanics you're dealing with while you're moving. But in all these phases where there's highly mechanical dances going on, the boss is never really targetable. He just kind of flies away, and then you interact with him as sort of part of the environment, and being maybe dodging a dive bomb from him or what have you. What we're sort of talking about right now and sort of expecting is that we're going to have the same level of mechanical dance while still having the boss targetable um, during that period of time. And what this is going to do naturally is if the boss is targetable for a lengthier period of time, his HP is obviously going to reach 0 quicker. So that to us is what sort of we're expecting is going to be is how the fight duration is going to be shorter by result.
See,
Go ahead.
it's easy. It's also very easy to imagine. For example, you're in the ultimate weapon phase, and it starts casting a mechanic, like a big dance mechanic. But instead of ultimate weapon doing it, it's Gruda Titan and Ifrit on the side doing it,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
ultimate weapon is still in the middle, and you still have to, you can DPS him while you're doing a effective trio. Trio is the name of the mechanics Bahamut Prime uses in Ultimate Coil. Whenever he does a trio, it's just a big dance of mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
But he's untargetable. So he could do a trio type ability with Gruda Titan Ifrit being the trio, and Ultimate Weapon still in the middle. Still have to hit him. Still have to beat the check.
So if you think back to like Ultimate Weapon hard mode, you have the periods of the fight where the primals come out, and you interact with Ultimate Weapon and the primal mechanics at the
Yeah,
same
exactly.
time.
There's Ifrit Chargers and Gruda's Siren songs or minstrel songs. Yeah,
Easy way
there's
to
lots of those like that.
make that ultimate is to just have a bunch of them on the map at the same time. Because in the hard mode you really kind of interact with one
We
at a
already
time.
know. We already know that we're gonna have to dodge the Siren song behind Titan's
Yeah,
jails.
Titan's jails.
That's
There's no rocks. There's gonna be a minstrel song, whatever it's called, from Garuda. You're gonna need to make your own rock with a jail. Like that's obvious.
yeah. It's,
Spoiler. I'm sorry if
yeah.
I ruined the fight for you by spoiling, guys, but that's gonna happen. So just expect it. It's about as obvious and expected as people expecting there to be quad shakers in Bahamut Ultimate. But I think that what's being mentioned in chat also right now is the fact that they are referencing that the tempo will be higher. I will give you my opinion on what that actually translates to. When you have a boss that's targetable while you're dealing with all these concurrent mechanics, um, it is innately more difficult to do those mechanics while you're also having to care about your DPS. So you're already feeling a higher tempo just from having to deal damage while dealing with the same mechanics. I think that that's where the feeling of faster tempo is going to be, and that we're not actually going to see mechanics coming in faster than we saw them in UCOB because I think you reach a point in 14 where mechanics are coming at you so fast that there's their servers and engine can only handle so much that it's going to be much too punishing to players and an unenjoyable experience. So
I
I'm
agree.
expecting the same speed, just having to deal damage at the same time.
I think I took tempo a different way, a different point. For example, when you're doing Ultimate Coil, twin phase is pretty slow paced. It might seem
Mm-hmm.
fast paced at first, but overall you get into a rhythm and it's easy to it's easy to do twin phase. And the nail phase, slightly higher, more mechanics, there's dooms and thunders and a lot of things, dive bombs, a lot of things going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get the trios, and trios is also pretty slow up
Just
until
really slow.
yeah, up until maybe Heaven's Fall, we have to do a lot of movement. Everything is pretty. You have your pattern, you have your set, have it set. But then you get to nail and twin. The nail and twin phase is the highest tempo in the fight.
I
There's a
agree. I agree.
there's a portion in the fight where, for basically 20 seconds straight, it's just mechanic, 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 and you always have to be moving, always have to be dodging, making sure that your DPS is still, reasonable to make the check. And when I took my tempo is that there's gonna be a lot less fights or a lot less portions of fight like trio and twin, and a lot more portions like nail and twin combo.
So, put the entire community on the spot. Do you think we can handle 15 minutes of nail and twin?
I think that it would take some serious powering up. Need to go Super Saiyan God
Okay.
to be
Okay.
able to. I mean, like, I think it's unanimous among most raiders that the nail and twin phase is the hardest phase in UCOP. It's the one.
Yeah, I tentatively agree with you. Tentatively agree with you.
Okay,
It's
in my
hard for
opinion,
it's hard for unique reasons.
it's hard. It is hard for differences, but a big portion of that reason is that there is a lot of stuff going on for that period of time when Nail starts RPing.
Mhm.
When Nail starts RPing, there's a lot of stuff going on, and it can be different each time.
I
And
think. Yeah, go ahead.
because of that, the stress and the level of concentration has to be really high to keep up with it. Because if anyone makes a mistake on any of those mechanics, it's probably a wipe.
It might just be the fact that it sort of repeats itself like halfway through. That I don't feel that it's necessarily like the most difficult part of the fight.
Oh, I agree. There's a big portion of that phase. There's a big portion of that phase where the tempo is slow,
Yeah.
doing the twisters or doing the hatches and the twisters and doing the fireballs. It gives you a cooldown period. But I'm just talking about that specific 20-second period when Nail starts RPing, Twintania starts
Oh, okay.
twisting.
Yeah, I got you.
That bit right there, when they said higher tempo, I just imagined they want to do that bit
So you're
a lot
saying
more.
that portion of the fight with that set of mechanic vomit, for lack of a better term, that bit of mechanic vomit you think is the peak of UCOP.
Yeah, maybe not the peak mechanic wise, peak as difficulty wise. I don't think that there's a set of mechanics that's harder in UCOB than that nail twin twister positioning bit.
I could probably get behind that. I think that Exit Flare could have been much harder, but I feel like they
I mean,
reeled it in a bit.
Exiflare, we know there was an Exiflare strike planned to
Yeah.
have a Mega Flare Tower during Exiflare.
We know that there was more planned for Exit Flare that they reeled back on last minute. My theory, that I don't know if this is totally baseless, but and also we're trying to stay focused on Ultra Weapon, but I just have to get this out there. My theory for how Exit Flare was originally designed was that you had Exiflares coming across the map, while at the same time there are Exiflare towers on the map that need to be soaked. So you'd have to be dodging from your Exiflare into a tower, and I think that would have been a crazy phase.
I'm actually pretty sure that was confirmed in an interview that they had Exiflare tower, they had Mega Flare towers during Exiflare.
I think that would have been a crazy phase and a totally worthy ending to the fight, because I feel like right now Golden is not really worthy to the ending.
Golden is like the final bit of a boxing match. It's just you and him. He's throwing everything at you. You're throwing everything at him, and it feels good. It's a really good phase. I thoroughly enjoy it. But had they had the towers in there, like 8 towers during Exit Flare, it would be truly the hardest phase. If you had to do even 2 towers during Exit Flare,
it'd be really difficult.
It'd be really hard. Even 2. If you had 8, it would be
8 would be nonsensical.
Maybe 2 really big towers.
Really struggle to make the GPS check if it was 8, but
yeah, you need 4 on each side. Maybe you need 2 big towers, something like that.
There'd have to be some sort of like preset tower condition so that you can bring Bahamut towards the towers so that your melee aren't completely ruining their lives.
So something that might happen if there was towers, and okay, so this is a lot for the viewers. There's a strategy in Exit Flare called Lucrezia strategy, and it's the one that Lucrezia used. And their strategy is that you walk into the animation of Exit Flare.
Yeah.
And it looks scary, but it's super consistent, and I think it's the best strategy. I suck at doing dodging in the middle.
I would agree with you.
So
and we're people who did it in the middle for Prague, and we feel this way.
Yeah, so the way that Lucrezia did it was genius. You walk into the animation, and the animation doesn't kill you. You have plenty of time to do it. You can do it even with pretty high ping. If you could do that, if you had the skill to be able to do that anywhere on the map without the marker, that you could make the towers no problem. So maybe they just have to be that good if they were towers. If they chose to put Exaflare Strike in the game, that would be the next level of Raiders to reach, to be able to do Exaflare.
So, like taking all this and everything we talked about with Ultimate, with UCOB, and getting back to Ultimate Weapon, we're talking about all this difficult stuff in the ending final phase of the fight. This is all stuff that is masochistic, but this is the stuff we want to see in Ultimate Weapon, right?
Ultimate is there. Like, we're gonna give you everything we got. Can you beat it? That's their philosophy, and a lot of people in the community really enjoy that.
So, do we think that this is what we're gonna get, though?
I think that their words on more tempo means that they're trying to make it less like Ultimate Coil, less phase transitions and less dead time. The dead time is not really dead; you're still moving around, but more DPS uptime, and to make it more, I think, probably harder. I'm not basing this on anything other than the words, increased tempo. I think it's probably going to be harder, more mechanics, but probably not too hard that we start jamming our head against the wall. I don't think so. I'm basing this on the words I said last night. A4S was a math check.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't really. It was a gear check and it was a math check. You had to make sure that your numbers lined up all right. There was no real skill, or there was no real mechanic skill, because all of them were
You couldn't
simple.
outplay the fight.
You
right.
could outplay the fight. Exactly. You could outplay the fight. In Ultimate, and I'm hoping for same thing with Ultimate Weapon. In Ultimate Coil, you can outplay the fight. There's a big gap. There's a big level of skill that you can gain from doing it. Doing it at its base and doing it at the highest level is there's a big floor, or a big difference between the floor and the ceiling. I think that the same thing is going to happen in the Ultimate Weapon.
So, building off of what you're saying there, because I don't disagree, I think that with all that said, though, they tuned UCOB to that floor. So the people who were able to outplay the fight had such a large window of room for error. And I'm getting the feeling that we're going to be seeing the same type of environment in Ultimate Weapon. And specifically, like, this isn't even just me feeling this way. They actually, at least from the translation we received, they went out and specifically said that the fight is going to have the DPS checks are not going to be super tight. They actually just said that.
I think so. DPS checks are good. You need some level of DPS check, otherwise the fight becomes trivial. If they're not going to be tight and it's going to be based on mechanics, that just means that there's more personal responsibility on each mechanic.
That's how I see it as well.
Not tied with DPS. So on that level, that's something that I think it's a good feeling to be able to play a mechanic and do it properly. And you can still worry about your DPS. You still have to make the check, obviously, but just to play, the ability to outplay the mechanic or do the mechanic properly as a group of 8 people, that's a good feeling. And as a raid team, I think a lot of people would feel the same way. And when your raid team is comfortable doing a mechanic consistently, and like, do you remember? This goes to all the viewers out there. When your group, or when you solved the mechanic as a raid team and it just clicked and you never wiped to it again, or you wiped to it very rarely, like Heaven's Fall trio in Ultimate Coil feels that way. Like, you look at it, it's like, holy shit, we have to get knocked 8 people after Heaven's Fall dodging Mega Flare beams, Mega Flare circles, pepperonis, and you have to solve this 8 people, and it's like, it looks impossible. It feels impossible. It's like, how can anyone do this? And then when it clicks, when everyone in the team gets it, and you don't wipe to it and you get past it consistently, it feels so good.
Yeah,
it just feels nice.
So, that feeling only comes from when you have, actual difficult mechanics that you're executing instead of just making a numbers check, is what you're saying.
Yeah, the mechanics have to be interesting, and doing a DPS check is kind of, it's whatever. You maximize.
I can get behind that. I think for an enjoyment of progressing through a fight, I think that's true. I think if you just take a DPS check and it's like, my rotation and gear has allowed me to pass this, it's much less of a elated feeling.
It just feels more skillful, and I hate using that word. I hate the word skillful, but it just feels more of that than doing a DPS check.
I think that's fair. I think that's a totally valid take. So with the fight duration being shorter, what's your guess for a fight time? I'm going 15 minutes.
I'm going 15 minutes too. 15 minutes is a nice, solid chunk of time. It's a long fight. It's as long as the original T13, I believe.
Well,
And
that's the thing. That's where my argument stems from. So the original turn 13 was, I want to say like 14-10 was the end of the fight. I'm pretty sure.
yeah, something like that. Yeah,
They're never going to have an ultimate fight that is shorter in duration than a non-ultimate fight. Otherwise, it's jeopardizing its title of being ultimate. So
that's
it's
a good.
for sure
That's
going to
true.
be more than 14-10.
Is T13 the longest fight, or is there longer in
I think that turn 13 is the longest they've done. Pre UCOB.
pre UCOB?
I'm trying to think back. Brute Justice was shorter. I know that. Manipulator was either 1330 or 1430.
I
can't
believe
remember
the
which.
major was 1330.
I think it was
We had
1330.
yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 1330, but could be wrong. I think you're right that T13 was the longest fight, not including Savage, Kefka, and X-Death. Those are two different fights, two separate fights.
Right. Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a break in between.
Yeah. Otherwise, like Neo and Kefka would be really long.
Yeah, but the T13 having it longer than T13, probably a given, probably. But
Yeah.
15 minutes feels like a good fight.
I think
20 minutes
15 is a good
is a
fight.
real slog. 20 minutes is a real slog. For anyone who hasn't attempted UCOB or hasn't not interested in it, doing a 20-minute fight, it really takes a tear on you after you're waiting 4 or 5 hours in a row.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we were actually kind of expecting UCOB to end around the 17 and a half mark, and we were really surprised when it went all the way to the 19 plus.
When I saw the nail in Twin Face for the first time, I was just like, no, we have to fight Bahamut now.
Like, we knew that Golden Bahamut was coming, but we had hoped that there wasn't something between regular Bahamut and Golden Bahamut.
But no, they're. Oh.
Well, we're kind of settled on expecting 15-ish minutes. We talked a little bit about the phasing that we're expecting. We're sort of expecting maybe Ultima being interactable with, while Garuda, Titan, and Ifrit trios are happening around the map. We do know, we saw from the live letter footage that the fight is going to open up with Garuda for the first phase. Do we think that the phasing is just going to go Garuda phase into Titan phase into Ifrit phase into Ultima phase, or do you think it's going to be Garuda's interactable and then maybe this is a great suggestion that somebody had yesterday. It's the Midas Robots phase from Brute Justice. We're going to be fighting Garuda, and then a minute into the Garuda phase, Titan's going to drop, and he's going to be a secondary target.
I totally expect them to be Garuda, Titan, Ifrit all on the map at the same time.
Oh, so you're thinking it's going to be like a Robots phase except with primals.
I totally.
I am so down. I'm so down.
I can't imagine them not having them at the same time on the map, doing all the mechanics separately. Like that's a real nail biter when you have 3 primals on the map and just doing mechanics individually by themselves. I would be just. I mean, I hope Square Enix is listening. I hope that they deliver on the 3 primals on the map.
Let's just make this clear to them right now. If somebody from Square Enix is listening to the show ever, and they hear this, and Ultimate Weapon is not this, scrap it and make it this, and come back to us in 2 weeks, because it's unacceptable if it's not this. So I'm really looking forward to that. I hope that it is that too. I will, just like you, I'll be disappointed if it's not that.
I totally expect them to have them on the map at the same time. They gotta be on the map at the same time.
Otherwise, it just seems so plain. Garuda doesn't have enough mechanics. They can't even make up enough Garuda mechanics to make a Garuda phase.
When Garuda summons Charada and Saparna, Ifrit and Titan show up instead.
In the same spots in the center of the map, it's just Ifrit and Titan instead of Charada and Saparna. Oh, and they're all tethered. No, oh my god, that would be a nightmare. Okay, so I'm really excited for that. I'm more excited for the Primal phase than I am the Ultimate phase now. We talked a little bit about we're expecting Gaius and Heidelin cameos at some point.
There's gonna be
something.
Yeah, it's like Rings of Your Crystal, Warriors of Light. There's got to be something with Heidelin. There has to be. No, there is.
Is there gonna be a like an extra action button for our crystal?
Yeah, definitely. Oh, I could totally see that. During the MSQ, the Praetorian MSQ, that's the hype moment when Heidelin shows up and gives you the blessing for the first time.
We're gonna get an active time maneuver where we have to raise our crystal
in
the air.
I mean, I'm not even bullshitting. Like, that seems like something that could happen. You have to. It's like a phase transition, and you have to, team up, raise your crystal, and get the blessing of light.
Oh my god, it's gonna happen, isn't it?
It is. I mean.
All right. Well. I will be okay with that, I guess, because we're gonna get a cool primal phase.
They tell
Uh,
stories with Ultimate. And if they're gonna
yes,
tell a story with Ultimate, they got Ultimate Weapon.
that's a
They
good
gotta
point.
have the Hydrant.
That's a good point. They did have UCOP did have a sort of story progression to it. You progress through like these encounters, and then you have this like the climax where Bahamut's gonna destroy you and everything, and then Phoenix comes and saves the day, referencing the whole like Louis SWAT thing. Um, I think that the because these are like ballads told by the wandering minstrel, we're going to see some sort of identity and like sort of script to how the fight is going to unfold, and it's definitely going
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
climax with something.
Absolutely. And Ultimate Weapon is probably going to be finished, and there's probably going to be a phase after Ultimate Weapon. Just spoilers. Just after you kill Ultimate Weapon, there's probably going to be a phase. Either La Habrea or Gaius or something, something
I
we don't
hope it's not La
expect.
Habrea. I hate that guy. It's really uninteresting.
Yeah, La Habrea is a pretty. I mean, he's dead in the MSQ, so at least you have that.
No. As far as rewards go for clearing the fight, we know what those are going to
I
be
love them.
again.
I love them. I love the fact that it's AF1. I
Okay,
think that it's the best idea they could have come up with.
I'm going to ask you why in a second. So we know that we had it confirmed yesterday that the weapons that we're going to be getting for clearing the fight are going to be AF1 style glamours, or not glamours, real weapons. We'll probably be equipping them for a long time, and we're going to get a title again, and we're not going to get a mount. So this is all very UCOB-esque. Um, you say you're hyped for AF1. Uh, my immediate thought when they announced that it was AF1 was, well, I have an entire set of AF1 glamours from making my Realm Reborn relic.
What
Why do I
I
want another one?
what I took by them saying it's AF1 weapons is that it's not the same model, but it's inspired off AF1. So, for example, the monk fists, Ferrari fists, you could make them look like Ferrari's fists, but upgraded. Like
Okay,
so,
I don't think it's going to be that, but carry
maybe
on.
maybe it's the same model, and maybe it's a super good glow effect. Maybe it's the same model, but the additional thing is that those relic weapons are so iconic. They're so like the monk fist, the Bravura axe, the Black Mage Zeta or the Black Mage Stardust Rod. Those all are like front and center of all the artwork and all the job splash art panels and stuff like that. So they're part of the class. They feel
Mm.
really uh, in tune. Additionally, the first time you go through the MSQ, or the first shortly after you finish the MSQ, you're probably getting your relic weapon. You probably you're a Titan Ifrit. That was part of the relic weapon, the hard
Uh huh.
modes to finish. So it ties into that as well. So I think it's a good, or I think it's the best weapon they could have chosen to do an upgrade of, or do a remodel of, or do a glow
Assuming that
effect
they
of.
weren't going to like make entirely new textures, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, oh, see, I thought before they announced the AF1 that they would do some sort of Magitech Garlean upgrade weapons, like
Same.
their weapons pulled from Ultima Weapon, for example. But that just feels kind of like, I mean, yeah, it's cool, it's interesting, but it doesn't have the same flavor and the same.
I can see where you're coming from. This is more iconic.
It's way more. It's way more iconic, and it also fits in the timeline, the history. When you did Titan Ifrit and grew the hard mode for the
Your
first time,
relic weapons were relevant.
you were doing your relic weapon. You were getting your relic weapon. That to me feels
It makes
like,
sense now. Yeah, when you put it like
yeah,
that.
that feels like why they chose the
This is
AF1.
that's definitely something that came up in their discussion too when they're picking this. Like what relates to the primal weapons, and
Yeah,
going further beyond that, we talked about how we have these AF1 weapons that already have a bunch of glows already. I'm hoping that the glow that they do for this ultimate weapon glamour is, and this is something that a lot of people that we've talked to are hoping for. Um, Svea first brought it up as a potential. Take the glows from the crafted primal weapons right now, and have them like rotate on
ooh,
the X. So
ooh, that's good. That's
take
good.
your Svarai claws or fists, and it rotates from the Ifrit glow to the Garuda glow to the Titan glow.
That's good. That's a good idea.
Yeah,
I hope they do that.
I really hope that they do that because that would be really cool. I have like a Burbura or a whatever
There's
the
also
Heavens Ward
there's
sword
also
is called.
precedent to that. There's actually precedent to that because the glows in the animals weapons right now do change colors.
Yeah, there
So
you go.
it's some
So
they
the
have the
technology
technology
is
built.
there, dude. The technology
Exactly,
is
it's
there.
already there, and maybe that was their test for the Ultima weapons. Hey,
It's
can we actually
all
do this?
unraveling.
Yeah,
We're
dude, it's
reverse
this is.
engineering everything right now. So I think that I'm hopeful for the glamours because these things are supposed to be hard to get and they're supposed to be long lasting. Like I think that the ultimate dreadworm weapons are cool, um, but they're like, I mean they're iconic in the sense that they're Bahamut related. But I would argue, and I've always felt this way, that the most iconic weapons in the game have always been and armor. The most iconic armor and weapons in the game have always been the AF1. It
Absolutely.
was just so prominent and so used also when the game first
There
came
was
out.
there was a point in the game when the game first came out. People may not know this, but glamours didn't exist, so everyone just wore the AF1 and
Yep.
their relic weapon, and everyone just ran around looking the same. But
Every warrior looked the same. Every paladin looked the same. It was only when you saw like the hardcore paladin that was raiding that actually had that
it had a
Halligan
high
weapon.
elegant weapon. It was like, oh shit.
Yeah. So I very good picks. I think in hindsight, having actually thought about it a bit more. Um, we talked about the DPS checks being a bit more lenient. We're a little bit okay with that because we are expecting the mechanical tempo to be at a pace that is difficult and enjoyable. Enjoyable feeling when you pass it. So if that's the direction they want to go with this, I'm okay with it. I think that it is a little bit unfair to call something the ultimate encounter if you're not testing every single aspect of a player. But maybe that's being unrealistic. We've talked a little bit. I talked a little bit about in past shows about how one of the reasons they can't do incredibly tight DPS checks is because it does sort of alienate some jobs. Um, there are tight enough DPS checks that would disallow certain comps from being able to pass. And that is something that they are aware of and that they do try to avoid when tuning. They've tried to avoid that since the incarnation of the game, and I have no reason to believe that any now is any different. But yeah, I think that as long as we see DPS checks that aren't so lenient that we're like skipping mechanics, I'm okay, and I won't be upset and cry. Is there anything else that was announced relating to Ultimate Weapon that we haven't touched on that we would want to touch on before we move on?
Don't think I can recall anything. I'm just really hyped for the fight, and based on Ultimate Coil, I think they'll do the fight justice.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I think I'm more excited this week than I was a couple weeks ago. I mean, I was excited a couple weeks ago even, but I think as we get more info and as it gets closer, I'm getting more and more excited for it. And this will be Chi and I have been progressing together in fights for years now, so this will be just another one on the wall for us to do. And I think that I speak for both of us when I say that we're just really looking forward to doing progression again. It's definitely the most enjoyable part of the game for us. Well, at least for me. I don't know. But the other big looming topic that we haven't discussed yet regarding patch 4.3 that we touched on a little bit earlier are the big job changes that are coming up. And it would not be a 4.3 show if we did not address some of the job changes that are on the horizon. We're going to go over what the job changes are for the classes that are in question, and we'll talk about them too. Within our own knowledge, there are some changes that we're more familiar with than others in terms of like how they're going to affect a specific job. I think Chi and I are probably well, we can talk about Samurai a little bit, but when it comes to Astrologian, I really had to reach out for some opinions on the Astro changes, and I can kind of see how maybe the changes are going to affect Astrologian going forward, and we'll discuss that a little bit. But so Chyea has been playing Melee for the last 5 years that I've known him, so great person to have on the show today to talk about some of the Samurai stuff that's going to be happening. Chyea, when we saw the Samurai changes, I know what we felt as a team, but let's share, I guess, how we feel.
So
What was our initial reaction to seeing the proposed Samurai changes? And just to catch people up who aren't aware, some of the changes that they're proposing for Samurai are just basic potency increases to, I believe they specifically reference their basic combo. So I'm assuming that's the Gecko combo. Uh,
it's probably the first step of the combo actually, because that's a pretty low potency ability right now.
okay, so
So
we're
that's
getting potency increases to their basic combo, and then they're also getting a way to control their enmity through they're tweaking some pre-existing skill. I don't know what that skill might be. Maybe you do, but it's total speculation for me.
it's
Um,
probably it's probably something you don't press too often because I can't really guess on what skill it's going to be. I'm not really sure what they didn't say the same thing they said with Monk. They said something different on Monk regarding reducing an enmity. So maybe it's just a enmity reduce on your second combo, your third combo, something like that. I'm not really sure.
So the one
But
thing that we do know is that it will be something that they can choose to use.
yes,
So it'll be like some form of cooldown.
what's important though is that it's not just the version, because the version's good. 30 seconds of almost no enmity gain is very good, but it's not nearly enough when your tank is not doing threat combos, which they should not be doing. The tank should be doing DPS combos almost all the time. Your threats are gonna catch up pretty fast because you don't have any drop other than the version. What they need for the melee is a halving ability or some passive trait. They're not gonna put a passive trait, so I'm hoping that the samurai thing is a button like Lucid. You press it, your enemy gets reduced by 1%.
Oh, okay, sure.
I mean, I'm hoping. I'm not sure that's what's going to be.
Yeah, I think that this is definitely a topic for another show. What I'm about to say, but on the issue of enmity right now in the current state of things, yes, a tank should be trying to avoid using threat combos, but the fact that the game has reached that point is really stupid to me. And I will save that rant for another show. But it is so stupid that we're having to balance the DPS around having less threat rather than incentivizing tanks to generate more. It is so stupid to me. Anyway, I know that
Uh,
samurais deal a ton of threat compared to other jobs, so I can understand why they're specifying samurai and monk. But
so samurai's issue in the group composition though is not just the threat. The issue is that all they bring is damage and the slashing debuff. And the slashing debuff can be filled by the warrior or the ninja. So it really only brings damage. And they that's what the goal for the class was when they released the class. They said they just want to be this is the damage dealer of your party.
right,
And in order to balance that, the damage has to be really high because you're almost always replacing a samurai with either a dragoon or a monk, and
yeah.
both of those bring decent party buffs. And monk also does a crazy amount of damage already.
And we know we're
So
not getting utility on the samurai. They've already came
yes,
out and said it. This is just potency that we're doing.
they just want damage. So these potency increases have to be pretty high to outweigh the fact that you lose a lot of utility. I don't think they're going to reach that level. If they do, it's going to change the meta quite considerably. If they most likely they don't. If they don't, Samurai is probably going to be in the same state it is right now, where it's not really wanted in any good comp.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a specific number of what the potency needs to reach to outclass,
But it's pretty high.
But I mean, it. You agree with me that it needs to be really high. Like this needs to be a significant buff.
It
If
has to be.
if we're
Has to be.
only changing potency, if they're not adding anything else to samurai, this has to be a pretty substantial buff for it to like be become. I don't want to use the term viable because anything is viable, but to become a desired option, this has to be a large change.
I don't think they're going to go that far because that would severely warp Samurai over all of the DPS. It would just personally do way more damage,
Yeah.
and that might change the balance they feel for other content of the game. Samurais would just have such a big advantage.
So maybe
I
this
don't
is a
think.
two-part change we're gonna see. Maybe we're gonna see a small, maybe not small, but an increase to samurai, and then see how the playing field, uh, you know, see what happens to the playing field with that change, and then maybe pull back some of the other jobs in a second update, rather than pushing samurai so far ahead.
I don't think they've ever nerfed a job other than Ninja. Is that true?
Uh, did Bard get nerfed in 2.0?
Maybe.
I
Ninja's the
they
only
did
one.
something to Bard. They I don't remember what it was though, man. They did something to Bard. I'd have to really. I mean, well, Paladin gets nerfed all the time.
Oh, true. That's true.
They've
They
gunned
never
Holy
did something.
Spirit like
Yeah,
six
yeah, you're right.
times.
You're right. You're right. No, you're right.
I was expecting them. Nepo and I were both expecting to open up the patch notes for 4.3 and
you know,
just see Holy Spirit 360 potency. It's
I
just
don't know.
like every time there's a Stormblood patch, we've lowered Holy Spirit's potency.
No, you're right. Paladin's constantly gotten nerfed in Stormblood. No, I mean, I don't think they're going to nerf classes across the board. It should be a lot of nerfs to keep Samurai afloat.
Yeah.
I think that they're probably going to give Samurai the steroid, maybe give it some minor utility, maybe a threat tool like Shadewalker. And then after Stormblood, when the next expansion comes out, they'll rework it to have more utility and be more desired. I don't think it's possible in Stormblood right now to make Samurai balanced both ways. Balanced good, balanced bad.
Yeah, I think that it just the game is it's like so much hinges on your party interaction in the
Mhm.
game right now, and because a class like Samurai that just has not enough party interaction, excuse me, by not enough I mean none.
Slashing debuff. That's
Slashing
actually it.
debuff. It's
And
just
fate.
it's almost impossible for them to balance around that singular class when the entirety of the rest of the job pool, with the exception of Black Mage, has is balanced around party interaction. So I think that while these are probably going to be buffs, I don't think they're gonna. I'm personally not expecting them to be game changing. Maybe they can prove me wrong, but that's how I feel. I think
Agreed.
that the changes that they're doing to Astrologian are going to be a bit more substantial.
Much needed as well.
Some
Significantly needed.
some of them are needed. I do agree with you. Some of them I feel after having talked to so I mentioned earlier that I reached out to a couple people. I specifically reached out to Muni, a little bit of Sai earlier on, and Ayesa from Entropy, and got their opinions on sort of the state of Astrologian post these proposed changes, and every single one of them basically said the same thing. And it's sort of what you can kind of see coming if you look between the lines here. There are good changes that are happening to Astrologian in 4.3, and those are mostly like the quality of life stuff that's happening. The Astrologian as a job right now has a lot of GCD clipping. It just kind of feels ugly to play. That's what I get told a lot from people who play Astrologian. The some of the throughput in relation to Helios has come into question in the past. Obviously it doesn't match the Medica 2 right now, and they did specifically mention that there is going to be adjustments to aspected Helios, and this is something that I definitely want to highlight. Now rather than later. This is a conversation I had with Ayesa a couple days ago about an issue that's happening in Stormblood with the power creep of AoE shielding and just shielding in general in Stormblood. This has been a topic as of late due to the massive amount of LB generation cheesing going on in speed kills and farm. It's really just becoming this like abused meta, abused and accepted meta, and it's really not something that you want to necessarily celebrate as a fun way to play the game. I am going to go on a limb here, and I'm going to say that most people doing speed kills right now probably do not enjoy the fact that they have to LB cheese as much as they do. They do it because it's necessary, but does anyone actually out there enjoy doing that? The numerous number of wipes that you have to do until you get that healing just right, until you get that shielding just right. Is that actually an enjoyable experience for anybody? I'm going to speak for myself and my team and say that we don't find it very enjoyable. And just the LB system as a whole, I feel really needs to be reworked and looked at. But the reason why I bring this up is because we have this strong power creep of shielding in Stormblood. Adjusting aspected Helios, specifically Noct, Square Enix needs to be really careful because we may be aggregating. Is that the right word? We may be aggravating the problem even further by buffing shielding even more when it's already in an incredibly powerful spot, and it already on a job that's already like super popular meta for speed kills in Astrologian. So I'm very hopeful / worried about what they're going to do to aspected Helios because it could make things worse, or it could be some nice quality of life changes like some range buffs.
Reference,
yeah.
For reference, before you continue on, maybe viewers don't understand what shielding has to do with limit break.
Sure, yeah, go ahead. Do you want to explain it, or do you want me
to? No, you explain. You know fully thoroughly.
Oh, okay. Well, what I'm basically talking about during these speed kills that I've been referencing is one of the ways that you can generate limit break in this game is if you absorb, if you prevent, I shouldn't say just absorb, but if you prevent lethal damage by, God, how should I explain this? You prevent lethal damage in a way that you're only buffing yourself. you're not weakening the boss's attack. The boss's attack, if the boss's attack post all of the debuffs on him and everything, if that boss's attack is lethal, if you prevent that lethal damage by a shield or by party side mitigation, like Chyea just said in chat, you will generate limit break gauge by doing so. And this is something that people really started to figure out. I'm gonna credit Aya Liz, because he's, and I could be totally wrong right now, but the first person that I remember in Heavensward that really like was vocal about this, at least, I'm sure maybe there was somebody before, but the first person that was vocal about it in the inner circles that I resided in, I heard it actually from a third party source, but the first person I saw that really understood this was Aya back in the late stages of Heavensward. Everybody before that was like, we had these understandings of like, if we do this, our LB raises quite a bit, but we don't really know why. We don't really know the specific interaction. But the point being, the people towards the end of Heavensward really started to understand that this is how you can maximize your LB. This is a large way to increase your LB generation and abuse it quite a bit. And this has become so popularized today that in a speed kill, in order to be competitive, it is necessary that you're absorbing lethal damage as frequently as your party is able to. And yeah, I guess I sort of lost my train of thought, but the reason why this is bad is because it promotes a playstyle of you're basically trying to die all the time without dying. And I just don't think that that's something that players enjoy very much. You know, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but the few people that I talked about it, and speaking for myself specifically, I don't enjoy that. So that is something that Square Enix should be careful about when they're adjusting like the expected Helios stuff. Some of the quality of life stuff that they're changing, you know, the GCD clipping. I believe that they're doing that by reducing the cast time of some of their spells. I think it was specifically Malefic that they talked about. And just the one thing that when I was talking to the other people about that is going to happen as a result of this is by reducing the GCD clipping that's occurring with Astrologian right now, you're going to be generating more casts just over the course of a fight, and more casts is going to equate to more personal DPS, because you're already healing the same amount, but if you're generating more room for casts, if you don't need to overheal, then you're obviously going to be putting those GCDs into DPS. So the Astrologian's DPS, personal DPS, is going to raise as a result of this change. I think that that's pretty fair to say and safe to say. As a result, we have a healer that was already kind of set in stone as the sort of raid DPS meta job. It's the class that you want to take to a speed kill, the class that you want to take to a party that wants to maximize DPS. It's going to further solidify and cement that role. When, at least I personally feel that we should be trying to bridge the gap between the estranged white mage and the Astrologian. We should be trying to make it so that they're a little bit more interchangeable and not so niche, because right now it just feels like it's getting really, really niche. That being said, Astrologian is also getting other quality of life updates in terms of their. We didn't even talk about the fact that they removed the damage. They removed the damage reduction off of light speed, but they're also
a big deal.
Yeah, I mean that is a big deal, and that's another reason why their damage is going to go up. But they are, some of their MP deficiencies are addressed a little bit with light speed change, and I think as a result of the MP efficiency being a bit better and the potential for the aspect of Helios changes, which may just be throughput or it might be range, I'm not really sure. The combination, I think, of those two things, plus the fact that Astrologian is going to be doing more damage, I think we're going to be seeing Astrologian's representation higher in this Ultimate Prog compared to what we saw in the UCOB Prog. There was still a few Astrologians progging UCOB early on. However, compared to the number of white mages that were progging, it was slim. I think that we are going to see more Astrologians progging Ultimate Weapon out of the gate. I don't we'll have to see like actual specific numbers and what they actually do to Helios. But I think that it's fair to say and safe to say the representation will raise. Do you is that a fair statement, Chyea? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I can't. Any buffs to Astro will mean that the Astro player base or more viable Astros will show up. So I can't see it being going down. It'll definitely go up. Just hope it doesn't go up too high. That becomes the most OP.
Yeah,
I mean, when they have a history of buffing Astro too much. In Creator,
yeah,
they buffed Astro off the wall, and it was
yeah.
by far the best healing class. So I don't want to repeat of history.
I think what Astrologian players will find is that without it'll feel nicer to play at least with all the but
That's
also without all
important.
the OGCD clipping. Um,
That's important.
yeah, I every time I talk to somebody who's playing Astro, they just talk about how much they really do not enjoy playing it. So maybe at least that'll be alleviated a little bit. But at the end of the day, you're still the preferred raid DPS job no matter what. If that's your goal. I think that's like the breadth of my astrology knowledge when it comes to 4-3. I know that IS is in the chat right now. He's a great healer resource. So any like further discussion questions, feel free to direct his way in chat. He was one of my references that I used when I was looking at these notes. So let's move on to something near and dear to my heart in the Dark Knight changes, and I will say I will let you know right now in today's notes for when I was prepping today's show, I didn't write anything down for Dark Knight because I feel like we can literally just ad lib this entire section because I feel like I've actually already even done a show on it. But let's break down what's happening. We know that Dark Knight is not going to be getting a massive rework, and that's what players were kind of looking for a little bit. A lot of people say that they don't like the Dark Knight playstyle right now because it's very like spam heavy with dark cards. I personally don't mind it because I've said it a couple times now, but I like the fact that constant interaction with having to press dark arts presents a multitude of small little micro decisions that you have to be constantly making regarding your MP and where your MP stands. Every time you press dark arts, you have to ask yourself a question: what is this going to do to my MP 5 GCDs from now? What is this going to do to my MP 10 seconds from now? And because of that interaction, having like this, it's not just a one button spam to me. It's not just I'm pressing dark arts every other GCD, and that's all there is to it. During Blood Weapon, that's kind of what it is, but Blood Weapon's only a small portion of your rotation. The specific changes that they're representing that they're proposing for Dark Knight, that we know that it's not a rework. They've specifically highlighted one that I think it was a long time coming, and that is a plunge adjustment. I don't know if this is going to be a startup animation decrease on plunge or on the tail end or both. I think it probably needs to be adjusted on the tail end the most. I think that's where the longest delay occurs. But this is a long time coming, honestly. Plunge is one of the only Dark Knight skills that is not double weavable. And I believe it is the only charged movement displacer ability that is not double weavable. Onslaught, shoulder tackle, spine shatter. Spine shatter still double weavable? Chyea, do you know? It is, right? Did I lose Chyea? I might have lost Chyea.
Sorry, no.
No.
You can't really spine shatter double weave it. Some people say you might be able to. I've never been able to. I don't think you can spine it. You definitely can't do it over a distance because it's still a movement thing. But
yes,
shoulder tackle, very fast. You can definitely double weave shoulder tackle. Anything. What's the samurai one called? I can't remember what the samurai one.
I actually can't remember what the samurai one called.
Like anything like that, plunge should be the same level.
Yes.
Because it's just so slow right now. Just pressing it just feels bad.
So the one thing I did want to highlight a little bit with this plunge adjustment is something that is kind of like a common misconception I find when I like lurk in discords and stuff. One of the things that a lot of people complain about with plunge is not actually plunge itself, but it's actually just how knockbacks work in this game. I'm going to use X Death as an example. Don't get me wrong. I'm not glossing this over as like the plunge change being unnecessary. I think it is very necessary. I think it's stupid that it doesn't double weave. The Dark Knight max DPS rotation literally revolves around planning out your OGCDs so that they're not interfering with your plunge OGCD. Otherwise, you're going to be losing potency. And one of the things that should be mentioned, though, regarding knockback effects happen radially from a boss. And actually, any AoE in this game that comes from a boss radially behaves this way. It expands radially, and what I mean by that is it affects the players closest to the boss first and expands outward. X-Death is a prime example of this, and Guardian and Sigma Escape, if you didn't do X-Death. These are both prime examples of this, to where the time at which you get knocked back by their knockback mechanics is entirely dependent upon where you are standing in relation to the boss. You can make it so that you get instantly knocked back the second the cast bar finishes if you are standing directly inside the boss's hitbox. And one of the most frequent complaints I see about abilities like Plunge or Onslaught is that the knockbacks in this game feel so random, so it's really hard to use these abilities. They're not random, they're just dumb. The fact that they don't occur at the same time is stupid, but that's just how the game has always been. AoE effects expand radially from bosses, and that's why sometimes you see these really crazy like boss clears and videos of where a boss's rage is going off, but somehow somebody lived. Somehow everyone in the party but one person died. It's because the boss's rage is expanding radially, and it reached that player last. I think one of the most famous instances of that was, I believe it was Death and Tax's turn 13 kill. It was something in Final Coil, but it's the final member of their clear was their bard, who was max distance from the fight, and the enrage was casting, and everyone but him died to the enrage. I believe it was turn 13, but yeah, it's just important to highlight that that's the interaction that's going on, and that some of it is not Plunge's fault. It's just some people not understanding how the knockback effects are actually working. So keep that in mind when you're using your Plunge and your Onslaught and your shoulder tackles and the Samurai one, whatever the hell it was called. None of us remember.
Yeah, no, that's mystery.
Keep that in mind. If you want to make your movement displacers as consistent as possible, start as close to the boss as you can.
But you shouldn't do it when the boss's animation finishes. It depends entirely on your ping. You should just practice with what your ping lets you do, and then plunge or short tackle, whatever, back in when you see you can catch it. The thing that I have the most experience with is that there's knockbacks and you elusive jump, and it's possible, and a lot of dragoons, can see this. When you elusive jump, you actually completely negate the knockback. You don't actually do the elusive jump animation. You just slide backwards.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you just slide, like your character just goes on the ground sliding backwards. That's how you know you got it. You got it perfect then.
Yeah, the frame perfect elusive jump.
Yeah, if you're a dragoon, or if you want to practice this, if you ever get a boss with a knockback and you get the animation to slide and not the elusive jump animation itself, but your character sliding, that means your GCD didn't clip and you can keep going.
Well, the regarding the plunge stuff, the plunge is a welcome change. It's been really annoying for forever now. I'll be curious to see what parts of the animation they tweak. But yeah, the other interesting portion of the Dark Knight potential change is the fact that I do want to reference this before I speak on it. I remember that they mentioned, yeah, here it is. They highlighted that they're going to receive defensive adjustments, I believe, and that was a bit surprising to me, but welcome, because I really didn't think that they identified that as being one of the issues.
Did they not say that that's going to be Blackest Night duration adjustment?
I actually don't know. Did they say that? If they did, I didn't see that.
Have they increased the Blackest Night duration already?
They did, yes. They increased it to...
Maybe I'm misremembering then.
Yeah, they already made it a little bit easier to do Blackest Nights. If they do it even anymore, that would be kind of a stupid change. It's already like really easy to time your Blackest Nights. I would be much more interested in seeing actual, tangible increases to the mitigation rather than just a quality of life change like that. Excuse me. I'm expecting something, maybe addressing Shadow Wall. I think it's a little bit strange that Shadow Wall is as weak as it is when you compare it to Sentinel and Vengeance. It's always been that way because they haven't ever wanted to make Dark Knight too powerful when it comes to magic defense. Um, because the argument was that Shadow Wall can be weaker because they have Dark Mind to back up Shadow Wall against magic. Now we live in an era where paladins can lift up their shield and block magic. So the niche that Dark Knights once lived in, they no longer occupy. So I think it's time to just completely throw that to the wayside and give Shadow Wall the buff that it deserves, in my opinion. I think that the the potency buffs that are being referenced with Dark Knight that are going to happen are probably going to be minor at best. I don't think, knowing that there's a big rework coming, they've kind of already hinted at the fact that when they're able to adjust it, they're going to input a rework to Dark Knight.
I don't think these reworks, and they've mentioned this before, I don't think these reworks will happen during the Stormblood patch cycle.
I don't think they will either. I think that they're going to happen during 5.0. I think that in the meantime, we're probably not going to see large sweeping changes to Dark Knight potencies. I think that we will see a buff to put it more in line with being above Paladin. I think that they see that Paladin offers a ton of utility, and I think that they want Dark Knight to consistently edge out Paladin. Dark Knight can kind of already match Paladin in certain scenarios, but in my experience, it's pretty hard to consistently edge out a Paladin. And Dark Knight stands little chance against a warrior that has his keyboard plugged in. So I think that we're probably going to be seeing Dark Knight try to edge out Paladin in their testing, and they're going to one thing that ties into the Dark Knight a little bit and the potency increases the Dark Knight's going to get is they did specifically mention that Warrior was doing very well right now, and that it had the connotation of it's doing too well. And in one of the translations that I read, and only one of them, they specifically mentioned the word warrior adjustments. So there may be some last minute changes that are happening to Warrior that they may have saw when they were adjusting Dark Knight. They may have saw a need for when they were adjusting Dark Knight. So that'll be something to look out for as well come Tuesday. I think that as far as any other defensive changes that can happen, I think that party based TBNs, party based Black Knights are pretty weak right now. Maybe we could see an adjustment to that if that's what they're referencing when they're talking about defense. As far as the Dark Knight stuff goes, it's really speculation right now. I think a lot of people are pessimistic about it right now, and we're going to see 10 potency on Bloodspiller, and that's going to be it. I think that one of the things that people are most hopeful for is going to be Dark Passenger buffs.
They're almost certainly going to buff Dark Passenger because right now I believe it's only 2 targets, or is it 3 targets? That's better on.
It is better. Put it in the spot. I believe it's better on 2 targets, and I think it is viable on 3 targets. But it's definitely better on 2 targets.
Yeah, but I think that the goal is to make it usable on 1.
Yes,
that's what people want.
I don't know if that's the goal by Square Enix, but that's what people are wanting. Exactly. Not everybody's wanting that, I've read, but the people who are wanting that are the people who played a lot of Heavensward Dark Knight, where Dark Passenger was
part of the rotation.
It was a core part of your rotation, single target, and people are wanting to get back to that.
It's also a core part of the Dark Knight class fantasy.
Yeah.
So not having it as your rotation feels bad.
I think it is, and I'm somebody who wasn't super adamant about it being a necessity, but I've kind of come around as of late to it's kind of stupid the way that it exists right now. It should be more utilized. It's an MP spender on a class that, with the exception of Dark Arts and TBNs, doesn't really have much of ways to spend MP. So it would add some more flavor to the class and add maybe a bit more thought to some aspects of your rotation. I would completely welcome a change to Dark Passenger that puts it back into a single target rotation. And we'll just have to see if that's what they do. They may not do that at all. They may feel that you're already pressing too many Dark Arts. We don't want to make them press Dark Arts and Darkest Passengers now, because they try to make things simple also.
Well, what I expect is Dark Passenger to be buffed. That's one of the core things I hope. Honestly, I believe the patch notes come out tonight in 3 hours.
Damn, dude, we should have pushed the show back a day.
Should have pushed it back one day.
Should have pushed it back to Friday.
It's okay. They wouldn't have said anything about Ultimate anyway.
Yeah. So, other than that, Dark Knight. we talked about the plunge. We talked about the potentials for what they're talking about with the defensive aspects. The only thing that I'll say in closing thoughts about Dark Knight is that Dark Knight's physical mitigation side of things is pretty weak lately. They are getting by purely on the merit of Blackest Night. Blackest Night is literally carrying Dark Knight's defensive kit right now, and because like they took away Dark Dance from Dark Knight and made it a cross roll in anticipation, and that's a cross roll that literally no tank is ever able to pick because we just have so much other. You can use it in a dungeon, but when it comes to a raid, you just cannot take anticipation. There's too much other stuff you need, and it's so Dark Knight literally just minus Dark Dance going into Stormblood, so you have less of a defense against physical damage there. Dark Dance was always like a random chance, but it's damage smoothing, and if you need to, it's a random chance to make a tank buster hit like nothing. It was also a way to proc your reprisal back in the day, and that interaction's totally lost. But that's really all we know about Dark Knight right now that I can think of. Like I said, I'm hoping for TBN adjustments, party side, and I'm hoping for Shadow Wall adjustment, and both Chi and I and others are hoping for Dark Passenger adjustment. So we'll see. And plunge. We're getting the plunge, which is necessary.
The only thing I have to say about the job changes that I don't think we've covered is that the monk and entity suppress, they specifically said that it's a trade-off for firepower. You have to give up something. So it's going to be.
They did say that.
It's going to be on one ilm punch.
One ilm punch?
One ilm punch.
That's your call? First. That's your call. All right.
My call is that as part of the indemnity suppression, or part of the indemnity suppression effect of one ilm punch. Sorry, they're going to remove the one punch additional effect, which no one has ever pressed in the history of Stormblood.
Is that true? Because I think that we pressed it once in a raid, once at raid.
There was so the
was
thing
it turn 10 or was it turn 11?
People who don't know, Stormblood. When Stormblood launched, they changed one punch to remove a debuff, which was some mobs in the game had buffs you could remove. So one punch used to remove a buff from the mob. Now it's the only thing in the game that stuns without DR. So you can perfect balance one punch, and you stun them for 10 seconds. But no one's ever done that. No one's ever cares about that. So
nobody's ever done that.
Okay, well, no one's ever done it in a setting that was anywhere remotely needed. Like you're not going to go on Mirror Knights or whatever in P5 and one punch them. Like, no one cares about that.
That's a great idea, though. Imagine that's powerful. That's powerful.
The one punch indemnity reduction. It just makes sense. Like it's a meme already. Why not make it even more of a meme?
All right, that's his call. You heard it.
Yeah, one punch.
Refer back to this message in what 6 hours?
9 hours, something like that.
9 hours.
It's soon.
Soon, TM. The other class changes, we talked a little bit about the potential for Warrior. We don't really know what's happening to Warrior.
They're going to remove direct hit off internal release. It's going to be, or inner release rather. It's just going to be crit. Everything crits.
That would be
a big nerf.
Substantial. That would be pretty substantial, to be honest. I wouldn't necessarily complain because what they've done to Warrior it's like the equivalent of so you play a lot of Magic the Gathering. It's like when what do you call it when the designers are blocked. It's like you can't design new cards because like something is blocking the design.
Design space. There's less design space.
Less design space. There's no design space to Warrior right now because IR exists. It's just completely blocked any changes that can happen to Warrior.
Your whole rotation depends on the IR. It's just that. It's that whatever 10-15 seconds.
The button is so powerful right now that there's no design space for any rest of the class. So them nerfing IR is going to add some more design space to Warriors. I wouldn't even complain.
I expect IR to be nerfed. It's too good right now.
Yeah, I would not complain. The ninja adjustments that they highlighted in the patch, did we all just agree that was going to be Palace of the Dead stuff? Was that like the unanimous decision?
It's going to be what? Sorry?
The ninja, they specifically highlighted in the live letter that ninja was being adjusted. I think they specifically said the damage-based usability will be adjusted for ninja.
Oh.
That's just Palace of the Dead leveling stuff?
I'm not sure if they confirmed that, but if it was Trick Attack, I'd be ecstatic. Because ninja's the only class in the game that has had such a predominant role ever since its release. Ever since Ninja's release, this is for history for everyone listening, ever since Ninja's release, it has slot in a meta comp.
Yeah,
That's not true for any other class.
it has been the class that has let it. No class has had a longer lifespan, with the exception of maybe Warrior. Than even Warrior
Maybe
though.
Warrior.
Like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can say that Warrior, like when Warrior released, Warrior was terrible. When Ninja released, Ninja was God.
Ninja was so good originally.
Ninja
It
was
was the best.
stupidly God.
Four ninjas was the best thing that's
It
come.
was it was ridiculously powerful when it released. No positionals, like way more potency than it has now. Even it's just stupid. Um, were there any other job adjustments? We talked about the monks.
Nothing really worth mentioning. Black
The
Mage
Black Mage
movement.
mobility. They're
Yeah,
changing ethereal manipulation again. Great. Moving on.
doesn't really matter.
Stupid.
Oh, pair adjustments, but no one knows what that's going to be.
Oh, for the scholars, or
Scholar
is
and
it
Summoner,
summoner as
yeah.
well? Okay.
Right
All right.
now it just says Scholar, but I'm sure that they'll do something with Summoner.
Well, we'll be on the lookout for any extraneous adjustments that pop up in the patch tonight, assuming it's tonight, and that'll be interesting. I'm really looking forward to what they do to Dark Knight Warrior. I'm super excited, man. Uh, wow, we've been going on for an hour 45 right now.
Time flies.
I am way over my expected time that I told you the show was going to take, so
I
I
don't mind.
apologize for that. But let's get into sort of some closing discussion here. An overarching general question of what do we think about the direction Stormblood's patches are going in. My opinion is that we are seeing the same formula rinsed and repeated again and again and again, and I am desperately in need of something that's going to break the mold. I've been wanting and wanting and wanting that thing to be light party content. I want them to experiment with it. I've been begging for it. I need something else. Do you feel the same way as I do, or are you happy with the formula?
Well, this sort of style of patch, like 24 man, the uh, random off content, it's been like that since 2.1. They've carried over this formula since then. This is what they want from the game. I don't think it's going to change. I do hope that their promise to make new content instead of a dungeon every patch fixes it up, or mixes it up rather. Uh, Palace of the Dead and Eureka. Oh, well, Eureka last patch, it was different. It was something different.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a lot of people didn't like it. Maybe it wasn't the right flavor of different, but it was something new. It was something that the game hadn't seen before. So I'm hoping that as they decide to branch out into more esoteric ideas, that each patch becomes more varied. Because you're right that each patch is very formulaic. I follow the same formula for 4 years now, but a lot of people like that. I
Do
wouldn't
they?
mind something different. When people know what they're expecting, plus MSQ, plus raid every, even patch, plus 24 man every odd patch. I mean, there's a lot of people, or maybe don't like is the wrong word. There's a lot of people who are objecting to that. For
Uh-huh.
example, if you had a patch where it was like, okay, it's raid, 4.1 is the new raid, and then 4.2 is the next tier, and then 4.3 is the 24 man, and then 4.4 is the next 24 man, and then 4.5 is the next tier. It feels weird. I like the way that they have a schedule to it. I just don't like that the fact that the off content or the non-main content, i.e. the raid and 24 man, kind of really doesn't hit the right buttons. But Palace of Dead and Eureka, or rather Heaven on High and Eureka, has the opportunity to change that. So I'm not going to complain.
Well, I hope that you're right. I hope that Eureka does sort of fill that gap of something new, but
Plus, Ultimate,
feeling fresh.
Ultimate's new. Ultimate's good.
It is good.
Ul-
I do
Ul-
agree. I think that my issue with these patches is the same thing though. Is as soon as the raid is over, the patch is becomes much less interesting. And I know that that's a personal issue and not something that I'm speaking for like the mass player base. But I just would like to see something day to day that they introduce that is experimentational.
you can
And
just say it. You can just say it. You just want Mythic
I
Plus.
just want
That's
Mythic
what.
Plus in the damn game, dude. I don't know what's taking so long. This is getting obnoxious. Okay,
We saw Yoshida
this
at
is getting
BlizzCon.
dumb. Where is
He
my
knows.
expert plus? Where is my hard modes?
I'm sure there's going to be some some light party content. Maybe not this patch, but I think it's in the works.
I hope so,
We'll
man.
sense, we'll see how Heaven on High works. I mean, we'll be there.
Yeah,
24
we'll be
hours
there.
in.
We'll be there day one.
Heaven on
We'll
High.
be there day
Yeah.
one. I think in the interest of time, guys, I have a couple of viewer questions here. but I'm going to have to put them to the Twitter side of things, and I'm going to respond to them through my Twitter as the day goes on, because we're just kind of running out of time here. I went on a bit too long on some of the topics, so I apologize to the questions I have here and the people who asked them. But please tune into my Twitter for the next hour to 2 hours, and I'll try to cover some of them. I want to wrap up today by firstly thanking my first ever guest, Mr. Chyea, for coming on, especially last minute, and honestly being a really great addition to the show. And I thought you did really great today, man. I think everyone's going to agree. So
Thank you. I had a good time. It was fun to talk about this stuff. Would gladly do it again in a heartbeat.
I really appreciate it, man. And you've always been one of my favorite people to hang out with and talk to online. So definitely want to get you on in future shows if the topic is something we can talk about. But I think that with that, I'm going to give you the floor to any final words you want to say before we close up.
I would just say that if you have not done MSQ, to go do the MSQ because it's thoroughly enjoyable.
All right, man, a few words there. Just go do the MSQ. What you guys don't realize is he's actually talking to me because he's telling me to do my MSQ before.
I'm telling everyone listening that hasn't done it yet and wants to be ready for the raid to do the MSQ because it's going to be tied to that.
Yes, there will be some form of relation. We know that the trial is coming out in 4.3 is going to be somehow branched off of the MSQ, right?
That's the assumption. Could be wrong. Could be just completely random, but okay. I expect it to be MSQ.
With that said, guys, I'm going to wrap up today's episode. Once again, thank you to Chyea for joining us today. I had a lot of fun talking today about the patch. I hope that patch 4.3 goes better than we expect even. I hope that some of the things that I was maybe negative about today, I am proven wrong about, and they just wow us all. With that said, though, it is time for everyone, including Chyea, to get out of here. And the next show that we have planned, spoiler, we don't have one planned actually, because we're going to be doing Prague soon, and I have no idea how long Prague is going to take. So next show is on a TBD basis. I will announce it through Twitter probably shortly after Progression is over. So we're going to be taking a short hiatus from the Crypto Shine shows. As summer goes on, though, and some of my responsibilities lessen, I think that it might be able to work it out so that the show is a bit more frequent than just bi-weekly. But I don't want to sign off on that just yet. But I really enjoyed today's episode and hope you guys did too. And that's all. Have a good day, everybody, and take care.
Chyea Chyea.